I don't think you could be an entrepreneur and not be in fear. I think if you're not in fear, you're probably not pushing the boundaries. There's many nights, for different reasons, but many nights going to sleep literally in tears and crying and not thinking I knew how it was going to work. And I think that's just part of the entrepreneur game. I think that's why community is important in entrepreneurship and doing personal work and therapy and stuff and personal growth, because that stuff happens when you're in business. The clear path's not always there. And if the clear path's not there, that's scary as hell.
Welcome to the Seven Hats Podcast. My name is Yuval Selik, and I've been on the entrepreneurial roller coaster for over 20 years. I've experienced it all throughout my journey: the grind, burnout, failure, and ultimately, success. The turning point for me was realizing that building a successful company is meaningless if you neglect the other significant areas of your life. So today, I'm inviting you to join me on an adventure through those 7 areas, what I call the 7 hats. Every week, my guests and I will drop valuable insights and pearls of wisdom, helping, motivating, and inspiring you to get your 7 hats in order and deliver real impact with meaning. So let's get going. Welcome, 7 Hatters. In this episode, we speak with Mike Fata and dive deep into hat number 4, the entrepreneur, as we follow the journey of one of the most successful founders in the consumer packaged goods space. Mike shares his incredible roller coaster journey as a 300-pound high school dropout who transformed his life through the power of hemp. Sick and tired of being sick and tired, Mike overhauled his diet, launched his company Manitoba Harvest, strapped himself on the entrepreneurial roller coaster, and took the treacherous ride to not only 1, but 2 9-figure exits. His story is heartwarming and inspirational, not to mention that Mike drops value bombs like a B-52. So let's welcome Mike to the 7 Hats. Mike, welcome to the 7 Hats.
Thanks for having me.
It's really great to have you. And, today's show is so exciting for me. As you probably know, our companies have been working together for the past several years, which was a real source of pride for me because Manitoba Harvest, which is your company, has long been one of my favorite brands in the industry. But we'll get to that in a bit. First, I'd love it if you can do the Reader Digest version of where you came from, some background on your childhood, and how that set you on your ultimate path. So where were you born and how would you characterize your upbringing?
Yeah, happy to. I was born in Thunder Bay, Ontario, which is on Lake Superior, but I grew up in Winnipeg and grew up with a single mom, my brother and I. And so we didn't have a lot of money. And so I think I learned the survival instinct of growing up a single family household pretty young. And that led to some of my life decisions, which ultimately led to my entrepreneurship. I dropped out of school when I was 13. And at that time, I thought, I could just make an impact and start bringing dollars in for myself personally and for the family. And that was in the form of construction work. So worked a lot with my hands, doing carpentry and asphalt and concrete and a lot of manual labor. At the same time, I would say I fell prey to the fast food movement. I wasn't educated about health and eating too much McDonald's and other fast food and found myself significantly overweight, obese even at 300 pounds. And then when I was 18 years old, I had the aha moment of realizing I was sick and tired of being sick and tired and I wanted to do something about it and started changing my lifestyle, which led me into the natural products industry in the space.
So you said you were overweight. I think you mentioned 300 pounds, right? That's overweight. What was that like being heavy as a kid? And after you lost the weight, did you still see yourself as that heavy kid?
Yeah, it's a great question. I mean, I would say it added to it was one of the reasons I dropped out of school when I was younger, because I hit 300 pounds at 18, but even when I was 13, I was a pretty chubby kid, and going into what would have been high school for me, which was a big social club or social time, it was another thing to be bullied on. I was also a smart kid, so maybe I got bullied on kind of being overweight and maybe a little nerdy. And so, after I lost the weight, it had a huge change in my life and really how the world saw me. But, some of the same thoughts, that, hey, 25 years later, I still have some of those same thoughts depending on the day. I don't see myself as 300 pounds, but I see myself as not the athletic me that I know and I operate in most of the time, and whether that's the day, the moment, or there's a certain triggers to that. I've done a lot of personal work to keep myself out of that space.
It's really interesting because when we look in the mirror, no matter how others see us, and you're in great shape now, we still have that voice inside that doubts what others see in us, right?
Yeah, and, I think it's the imposter syndrome nowadays where, and I've shared some of this openly of like, I don't always feel like in great shape. I don't always feel like a great entrepreneur. I don't always feel like a great mentor. Sometimes I feel like I'm an imposter in that situation but I know deep down that I am. I just have to fight through that. And again, that's through, done a decent amount of personal, emotional therapy and other therapies that keep me out of that kind of repetitive mindset of being an imposter.
We'll delve a little bit into that. So did you have any particular dreams when you were a kid?
You mean like dreams of what I wanted to be when I grew up?
What you wanted to do? Yeah. Anything specific?
Yeah. I think I say I'm a born entrepreneur. I became more of a made CEO growing a big business, but I just wanted to make money. I wanted to be successful when I was young, and I was not in that situation. So, I had a paper route when I was like 7, 8 years old. I helped my brother with his first, and then I took over and had my own route when I was like 10, 11. And so, which nowadays it is, living in a different time, but I wanted to create success. I didn't have a really clear vision of what success looked like. I don't even think I had a clear vision of how successful it had to be, because I did think that I wanted to be like a millionaire, and realized when our business made $1 million that wasn't, that's not everything. Not only is it not everything, it's not a lot nowadays in comparison. But I just wanted to be successful when I was young, because I was coming from a place of more surviving and having a challenged time when I grew up.
It's funny you said that. Every entrepreneur that I spoken with over the years that made $1 million and 5 million and 10 million and above, they always tell me that dream was to make $1 million. And when they make that $1 million, they maybe celebrate for a little bit. And then it's like, what's next? So that allure of the money never really comes to fruition when they actually achieve it, which is really interesting. So let's move on to your entrepreneurial kind of founder story. So how did you discover hemp?
Well, a couple different ways. Well, first, hemp. I had a hemp bracelet when I was younger, and I thought hemp was cool. I didn't know a lot about hemp, but I just thought it was cool. And then I read during my health journey, I read the book "Fats That Heal, Fats That Kill," Dr. Udo Erasmus, and basically, Udo broke down good fats, bad fats, essential fatty acids, and then praised hemp for being a very rich source of essential fats, but not being available in North America, only being available at that time in Europe. And then the other two co-founders of Manitoba Harvest I met through, friends of friends, and they were working to legalize hemp in Canada. And so that was my aha moment of, I was on this health path and on this health journey, and I thought hemp was cool, more from the kind of fiber and total, what it meant as a plant and opportunities. But then I got really focused on how big this could be as an oil seed and a nutritious seed. And then, we got together and formed the business.
So did you lose weight before finding hemp, or was hemp responsible for helping you lose weight?
No, I lost weight before, but hemp was responsible for overall health. I went on, my first part of my weight loss journey was on a no fat diet, which, in the mid 1990s, no fat was very popular. Dr. Nathan Pritikin and his principles. And so, I was eating no fat everything and got myself down to thinking I was doing such a good job because I was working out and losing weight that I cut all the fat out of my diet. I was eating like a couple grams of fat a day. Essential fatty acids weren't as popular as they are now. And I started suffering ill health, where my hair was falling out and my skin was horrible and I didn't have the energy levels, all these things that are essential fatty acid deficiency symptoms. And so when I started to research fat and read Udo's book, then I was like, I'm missing something. And I literally went from the no fat diet to the right fat diet. And that's really the opportunity that I saw with hemp. And so, hemp, I would say, and not only hemp, but hemp and flaxseed and chia seeds all helped, regain my health after I was so fat starved for a couple of years. And then I fell in love with the business opportunity, thinking that others were going to also experience, no, it's not no fat, it's the right fat and the essential fatty acid diet.
So what was the impetus for starting? So you have two co-founders, or you met a couple of guys that were into to hemp. What's the reasoning for starting Manitoba Harvest?
Yeah, I mean, they were hemp activists. So they were, got hemp legal and were super excited about that. And I fell in love with hemp seed oil. That was our first product. And just the thought of hemp seed oil first. And then when we created it, I was super in love with it. And for my own personal diet, and it started making me feel better. And my essential fatty acid deficiencies were going away. So I was becoming healthier and stronger. And I literally would just, I didn't want to do anything else but walk around and tell people like, no, you shouldn't be on a no fat diet. You need essential fatty acids, and I felt like I was like helping save people from, some of the same stresses that I had. And that's how really we got started. One health food store, one farmer growing the hemp seed, and then just one customer at a time, educating people why they should consider hemp foods.
So it became a passion for you. And you actually stated that it takes more than a village to raise an entrepreneur. But were people discouraging you when you started, especially since you dropped out of school? Or were they by your side since day one?
No, I mean, most people didn't get it. So they just, they walk by and laugh, or, they just, they would call it down. Even some of my own family, I was thankful that my mom was supportive all the way along. She was supportive for me when I wanted to drop out of school when I was younger, as long as I started working. And then when I told her the concept of the business, and she was going along with my health journey as well. She was very supportive, but other family members weren't. And then they weren't for several years. It took us 5 years to get to our first $1 million in sales, but many people that were non-supporters, or even some that were haters, they did that all the way through until at $1 million ish, people started thinking, oh, maybe this is a real business, and then turned on their support, or at least weren't so aggressive in being a naysayer.
So did they come back later with their hand out after the success, when they didn't believe in you in the beginning?
Yeah, I don't know so much about handout, but people wanted to be part. Oh yeah,
I always believed in you. It's like I always believed in you.
Yeah, some of that stuff happened, and it's amazing, but people maybe don't think about that they're not supportive, and then they overall trying to flip because then it's okay or something. I didn't blame anybody, because I knew that hemp was very edgy. When you said hemp, people thought that you were talking about marijuana back in the mid 1990s, late 1990s. Like, I say the only thing harder than starting a hemp food company in 1998 was being a long hair guy doing it. And so people already profiled me, oh, you're a hippie, or you're, and that just didn't resonate with a lot of people's lifestyle. But two things happened. Not only the business became successful, but the world caught up, where people like see now that it's a good product, it's a good thing. So I don't blame anyone that wasn't supportive. It's just that it's kind of funny how cliche that is. It happens,
It happens all the time.
All those fair weather fans, then, that they're not really supportive, but then when it's obvious that there's a win, then they're like, okay, yeah.
You get it all the time. I see it all the time. So what did you do to overcome the mystique of hemp in the early years?
Education, straight education. Like every business and brand needs to do well at marketing and telling their story and what makes them unique. We had the extra challenge of explaining like what hemp was and the opportunity that it could really provide. The nutrition, even a great tasting product. People liked hemp seed more than flaxseed, but it was more educational marketing than it was straight brand marketing in the early days. So we researched and found all the latest information, and then printed materials and brochures around that, and held demos and training sessions, and just talked to people one-on-one. The great thing about hemp is hemp had the mystique. It was, people were confused. Wait, is hemp marijuana? Is hemp a t-shirt, or is it really food? And so that would at least draw the certain customer in that would be curious for more information, and then we deliver that information to them and win them over.
And you were bootstrapped, right? You didn't raise funds initially.
We didn't have any money. We put $10,000 in to start the business as the three founders, and then because we're in manufacturing, we needed capital, and so we did raise some money from friends and family to buy our first oil press and get started. But it was very lean from a capital standpoint. We raised $1 million to get to the first 10 million in sales, so it was pretty bootstrapped.
Not a bad return. It's not a bad return.
Oh yeah, there's lots of happy shareholders in the end.
Exactly. So it took you 5 years to get to 1 million, right?
Yeah, 5 years to get to our first million in revenue. Yeah.
So what were the early years like? What were the obstacles and challenges other than just education as you got to 1 million?
Trying to figure out how to make a consistent, high quality product. Everything was unknown with hemp. So, we had to teach the first farmer and the first couple farmers how to grow the crop. And then we had to figure out what was the high quality, what did good look like. And I think that's probably the biggest challenge in not only any new business, but for sure for us starting a new industry was what did good look like, and then how did we consistently deliver on good? And so we learned a lot in those early years about just how to get a hemp seed grown and off and in the bin and actually ready for food manufacturing. And then as a food manufacturer, how to consistently process the seed to deliver an end product that customers wanted to buy. And then we had to establish the brand, and go out there and actually sell it to retailers, which, only a certain amount of retailers were supportive of hemp at that time. So it was knocking on a lot of doors, probably, 5 to 10 times the normal amount of doors to get distribution.
And you were manufacturing yourself, or did you go co-packing?
No, the company always manufactured itself. Yeah.
Nice.
We used it, right off the bat. We were tenants in the Food Development Center. So like a government facility that has equipment that you can rent and rent for the day or rent for the month. And so we bought an oil press, but we could rent their bottling machine and their labeling machine. But yeah, we were always self-manufactured from day one. And that's the one of the true strengths of the business is not only self-manufactured, but vertical integration, where it has the genetics and works directly with the farmers to produce the input of the seed.
Nice. So you've always had that entrepreneurial bug, but once you're an entrepreneur, you got your co-founders, you're, at $1 million, you're growing. Did you believe in yourself as an entrepreneur back then? And if not, what did it take for you to start loving yourself and finding that confidence to make those critical decisions for success?
I think I've believed in myself since I made the major life changes. So my discipline to lose over 100 pounds and really become the person that I wanted to become, set the foundation of discipline that, as an entrepreneur, I believed in myself. And I'm, this some people don't agree or whatever, the fake it till you make it. I'm a person that I believe in fake it till you make it. Or I used to say when I was young, you only had to tell me something like half a time, like half of the information, and then I would be able to get it and then be able to go and execute that. So I guess
nice.
I've learned that I have a pretty strong imagination, a pretty strong vision. I can see things clearly in my mind. And I found that if I can see them clearly in my mind, I can make those things happen, and then also lead other people to be able to see that and make it happen. So I had the confidence myself, but I was learning as I was going, building the plane as we started to fly, which that was the real challenge. But I was so passionate about it, I didn't want to do anything else than be healthy and healthier myself, and then deliver this healthy product out to the marketplace. It fired me up every day. I was one of the entrepreneurs that had a hard time when I wasn't working, when it was the weekend and I was working, 100-hour weeks then for sure. But, I always wanted to be working because it was really moving the project forward.
Not 9 to 5, 5 to 9, or 95 per week. That's kind of what it takes. It's that confidence, it's the grind, and it's the passion. So you had that. So at what point did you say to yourself, holy shit, I got a successful business on my hands? Was it at $1 million? Was it at 5? Was there something different other than?
Yeah, I think it was about 10. I think from a revenue standpoint, when we got to $1 million, I realized, and again, when I was a kid, I thought, a millionaire, right? It's $1 million, so $1 million business. We got to $1 million and I realized that $1 million wasn't the right scale for our company. Some companies, $1 million could be the right scale, but because we were a manufacturer, we needed to own, have a properly sized facility. We need to be a $10 million business. So my realization after 5 years and getting to $1 million was we need to be 10 times bigger for this business to be sustainable. It took us another 5 years to get to $10 million. So 10 years total timeline to get to 10 million in annual revenue. When we hit that $10 million in annual revenue, then I was, I was 10 years into being a CEO and being a successful entrepreneur with one business. But that was the right scale where I then started to think that we really had something, and then could see the 10x opportunity from 10 to 100 million. And that's when we, raised bigger amount of capital and really started to heavily grow the business. But 10 years is a long time to not have a huge amount of confidence or not overly think that the business could work. Because I think before we were a $10 million organization, it wasn't the right scale. You had to keep growing to be sustainable.
You mean it took you 10 plus years to become an overnight success?
At least I'd say 20 years,
At least
20 before we got to, an exit and a liquidity event, which is true success. Because at that point we had more and more shareholders, and success is realization of benefit for all the stakeholders, all the shareholders, which didn't happen until we sold the business the first time.
As you were growing, did it at any time, did it scare you?
I don't think you could be an entrepreneur and not be in fear. I think if you're not in fear, you're probably not pushing the boundaries.
I love
I'm
that.
open about it. I mean, there's many nights for different reasons, but many nights going to sleep literally in tears and crying and not thinking I knew how it was going to work, and I think that's just part of the entrepreneur game. I think that's why community is important in entrepreneurship and doing personal work and therapy and stuff and personal growth, because that stuff happens when you're in business. The clear path's not always there, and if the clear path's not there, yeah, that's scary as hell.
Was there something specific you were doing to get up the next day after crying in bed and just getting up and going at it, or was it just kind of an internal drive?
I spent a lot of years, again, personal growth. Like a lot of time that I live that, like get up at 5 a.m. as a CEO and be in the gym or be at my trainer at 6 a.m., get a full workout in, and then go and buy healthy food and all my kind of, things for the day. And then jump into the office for like 7:30 before everyone was there. I did that for years and years and years. And so that was my personal fire. I was looking to constantly better myself. And so it was an easy reflection to then take that and better the business. Not everyone has that. I have that. I can't actually turn that off. It's just part of me. But I never really felt that in life until I found my why. But part of that transition of health brought that, just determination to continuously improve, be better every day, and I can take that still in my personal life, but then impact other businesses with that.
Yeah, you're nailing the talking points. Your why. I mean, you need that in order to continue on. So you speak of teams often. Were you deliberate in building a specific culture at Manitoba, or did it just happen organically?
Well, I think that my realization was many years into the business. It was probably when we were a $4 or $5 million company, and we started to establish a formal mission, vision, values, get more formalized on our strategic plan, and that I realized that the values that the business had were my personal values. That we went to be the highest quality business would be one example. And I'm a quality guy. I try to figure out where that comes from. My family's Italian. Italians like to buy nice stuff or have nice stuff and take care of it for a very long time, like it's brand new, that kind of thing. And so that was in me, but also operating with transparency. I'm a very transparent guy in communication, and so the business adopted those core values. When we sat down and actually defined our core values was when I said, "Oh, a lot of those are my personal core values." And to the point where, and we've done some more formal marketing exercises over the years, that when people say, like, if a business was a persona, that marketing exercise. Yeah. Many team members said, "Oh, Manitoba Harvest would be Mike," and so it aligned that way, instead of trying to actually write things and come up with things and put them on the wall.
And the team adapted the culture. What was the culture like in general when you walked in the door?
We made it a little bit more fun over the years, because we know that fun is, like you had to define the fun. It's easier to be a smaller business and incorporate fun, but as a larger organization, when we had 200 plus team members, that had to be more incorporated. But yeah, I think the culture and what Manitoba Harvest stands for and stood for, the brand, and really what the value that was created that afforded, the very large exit, was because we built a culture of quality. To be now, when I left the business, operating 2 manufacturing facilities totaling 80,000 square feet of manufacturing, with a couple hundred team members, that was certified to the highest level of food safety and quality, which is a BRC AA plus, with 0 non-conformances on the audit. Only, like at that time, the audit said like 10 facilities in North America had that rating, and you can't build that without culture. We're doing the same thing with lean manufacturing and identifying all these opportunities in the business, and how do we make them better for the betterment of every team member that was there. And if you hear me talk about teams, that was one example. I think it was probably, we were maybe 7 or 8 years into the business, and it was through Whole Foods, that I realized, oh, well, Whole Foods doesn't talk about employees and managers and owners. They talk, everyone's on the team. And so I adopted that. And I mandated it through our business. There is no more talking about employees. Everyone's on the team. Everyone's a team member. We changed all of our documentation in every aspect of the business to remove any concept of employee. And I think that those are the things that really build culture, because then you could bring in other kind of team examples to help build that culture. And many businesses do it. I adopted as well, using like professional sports teams. Professional sports teams, you have everyone that's on the team, but it kind of self-governs that you have to up your skills all the time to kind of continue to be on the team. Or if not, other team members are like, "Hey, John or Susie isn't holding up their own weight, or they're not ready, they're not skating to where the puck is or whatever. And so, yeah, I always liked that. And I think that was a big part of our culture building at Manitoba Harvest.
I love that. What happened to your co-founders?
They left the business. They left it at probably, it was year like 9 or year 8 and 9. And so right when I think we kind of hit the sustainable scale of the business, it got a little bit too much for them as entrepreneurs, that they, a lot of formalities, right? Raise venture capital, have a board of directors, have a senior management team that has reporting responsibilities and acting like a big business, and that just didn't work for either one of them. So they left the organization.
Wow.
From a management standpoint, I mean, they're still shareholders through to the time that we sold the business the first time.
So you didn't buy them out; they just left, saying, "Hey, you take control, and we'll see if anything happens."
Yeah, I mean, it's separate, right? Being a shareholder is separate from a management. So they left the management. They left their job, but they were still shareholders in the business.
Did you guys get along?
Yeah, not all the time. I'd say I'm more friendly with one of the co-founders than the other, but working together is not easy. No partnership's easy. It's like being married. You need to do a lot of work on the relationship, and especially with growth. Lots of extensive growth for the business. Like, the business had a compounded annual growth rate of like 50% plus. So
wow.
When the business changes that much, you have to personally grow and adapt, or there's going to be conflict.
Yeah, and the reason I ask is because it's culture and co-founders are such a big deal for entrepreneurs. And I had a show with my co-founder Chris and Barry, and we spoke about that. And it's not easy. It's such a blessing to actually find great co-founders that you get along with. So interesting. Do you remember, though, your first bottom as an entrepreneur?
Yeah, I mean, what jumps out right now, there's a lot of them. There was a lot of them. I mean, we started the business in 1998, and after a couple of years, we thought that we had to go find all the hemp, the people that were interested in hemp. And so we went into the U.S., which, as a small business, less than $1 million, we didn't really have a space to be going from Canada to the U.S., but we did. And then we launched in the U.S. on September 1st, 2001. Right after that, September 11th happened, and our investment was all along the East Coast, and we had, we paid, it was probably about $400,000 in total costs that to get distribution in UNFI and all this stuff that just came to a screeching halt. First by September 11th, but then 3 weeks after that, October 9th, 2001, the DEA declared a war on hemp foods and said hemp was illegal, couldn't sell it, which was not true. But it was just such confusion. The propaganda was so confusing that all the retailers, just sort of, it canceled for the most part that launch, and that was the first kind of big rock bottom moment. And it's hard to see that much amount of money wasted. And then I thought it was going to impact the survival of the business, but trenched down and just went to work in a different way.
Did you ever want to give up at that time? And if you did, why didn't you?
There's lots of times that would have said like, okay, enough's enough, and really, especially in the early years, not getting paid first, and all these things happen. You're like, well, you can go do something else, but it was the testimonials from people that really, two things. One, I was like, well, where am I personally going to get my hemp foods from? Because hemp foods are, as soon as we started the business, and I tell people now, like, I eat 5 pounds of hemp hearts a month, and I have for 23 years. And now I'm not involved in the business, so I don't get paid to say that, but it's just a big part of my lifestyle. It was back then. And so one thing was like, where are we going to get the hemp foods from? Because we were doing it better than anybody else. And then testimonials from people just on that eating hemp oil or hemp hearts or shelled hemp seeds were changing their life, making their arthritis symptoms less and better for their skin and their energy. And we got these phone calls and testimonials over and over. And so the gaps that I had of wasn't sure if I could take any more pain or do it. It was that was the feeling, the good feelings that kept me super motivated to just double down and keep going.
I don't know about 5 pounds a month, but I've been, a Manitoba Harvest customer for probably, at least 5 years, maybe more. And so it's an incredible product. So you grew the company from a startup founder, and then later there's got to be a time where you shift from a founder mentality to a CEO mentality, usually around 1 million to 5 million. That happens. In your case, I've been wanting to ask you this for so long. What's the difference between a founder and a CEO?
Well, I'd say that what's the difference between an entrepreneur and a CEO? You could say founder too, but I mean, and I say I'm a born entrepreneur, but I'm a made CEO. I'm a born entrepreneur because I can make something out of nothing, and I can make money. Whether it's like realizing, hey, there's some rocks on the ground over there that I could package up and sell to somebody, and that's kind of like pure entrepreneurship. Create something out of nothing, a product or a service, and then market it. A CEO, and you're right, it's a certain size company. It usually comes into line with having shareholders other than yourself as well, and other governance like a board of directors intensifies that. The chief executive officer, has a formal job description and duties that you can go out there and because of that title compare with other businesses, and you're going to expect the person in that role to be able to have competency doing all the tasks on that CEO list. I think that's the big difference. Or an entrepreneur, you can say I'm an entrepreneur and sell swimming pools or catch butterflies or whatever the service or product is, but no one's gonna have an expectation of that. They do start to have an expectation when you say you're a chief executive officer, and especially when you start to put that to a certain size business. A CEO of $100 million company, there's a lot of expectation of how that person is going to conduct themselves and the competence that they're going to have in the different roles. But governance and reporting and responsibility to shareholders is a big one.
And a lot of times founders or entrepreneurs don't have the skill sets and don't want to do it. They just want to be the visionary. They want to be able to go in and do the fun part, of growing a business. But then once you get to those levels, so what skill sets do you think you needed to adapt at each stage? Let's say 1 to 5, 5 to 10, 10 to 100, because usually there's very distinct skill sets that apply at these stages.
Yeah. Well, I said I'm a CEO of all trades. My mom was an accountant, so finance and numbers is very easy for me. It has been throughout my life, and I'm operationally. I understand how things work from a vision of and so I had that back of the house kind of finance and ops, and I was more of an introvert when I was younger, and after I lost the weight, I wanted to become more of an extrovert. And so getting out there and selling and marketing is probably the area that I grew more into. And then as the brand got bigger, like $5 million plus, I started to get fascinated with consumer marketing and all the aspects from product development to pricing to consumer education and campaigns and PR and all those different aspects of it. But all of them have to grow. For me, the way that I work, I had to grow all aspects of that at the same time. My finance, ops, sales, and marketing. Some entrepreneurs don't. They have like a inside person and an outside person you see in a lot of businesses where one of the founders will do just sales and marketing, one does ops and finance. But I kind of wanted to know all the different aspects of the business and literally walk a mile in all of our team members' shoes for whatever we were asking of them. And that kept me up to speed with how much I had to grow.
That's awesome. I'm just like that. I love that answer. So at one point, your skills kind of run out and you decide to take in an outside CEO. Did that happen with Manitoba?
It did after we sold the business the first time. So when we sold the majority of the business in 2015, and then turned around and bought my friend's hemp food company and merged the two companies together. And then the business was there, went up to like close to $100 million. And part me being like, hey, I'm not sure that I'm a good CEO at $100 million because it is it's not entrepreneurial or it's less entrepreneurial at that point for sure. And and our majority shareholders expected something different, and so it made natural sense for me to take only my board role as a director in the company and be more strategic, but hire a CEO.
So you sold once, you stayed on the board, and then you sold again to the same company or to another company?
To another company. Yeah, the first time was a financial private equity company, so financial sponsor, and then the second time was to a strategic, to Tilray, which is now Tilray Afria, the largest cannabis company in the world.
And then you fully exited the second time, right?
Correct, yeah. In 2019.
2019. So Elon Musk says that when you lose a business, it's almost as if you lose a child. When you sold the business the second time and you left, did you experience grief and loss?
For sure, yeah. I talk a lot about it, and I'll talk more about it because entrepreneurs don't realize that. I had the triple whammy. We sold the business. My ex and I decided after 14 years it was time to separate. And wow. my mom died unexpectedly, all within 5 weeks of each other. And so it was a triple grieving experience. I didn't have my relationship. I didn't have my mom. I didn't have a place to go. That was my baby at that time, 22-year-old business. And so Yeah, it was an intense 6 months of grieving. I feel like now that I'm 2 years past that, it can look and say it was, it was a very dark, probably the darkest time in my life, just because the whole world turned upside down. It was a big transition point. So aside from the power of three that unfortunately I got, even entrepreneurs that sell their business that the next day they're not welcome in the company anymore. I've seen a tremendous amount of friends go through similar grieving and just, because the business is them. They birthed the business. It's part of who they are and their existence out to the world. And so they have to reframe themselves. Thankfully for me, the sale process for Manitoba Harvest, the first sale process was, training wheels for that. I was still involved in the business. So and it was multiple years. So there's like 4 years involved from the time we decided to first sell the business, the first time to the second sale. So the business wasn't my only thing. I was already starting to be involved in other companies, and all my personality wasn't just into Manitoba Harvest.
What did you do to combat this 6 month of grieving? By the way, I'm sorry about your mom.
Oh, yeah. No, my mom was, I worked with my mom for 7 years. She was in finance, our number two in finance. So she worked right through to close the transaction and the sale of the company, and then retired the next day. And then 3 weeks later, passed on. So yeah, what did I do? I was basically a monk, I think. I stayed home and was intense grieving for weeks, and then started to see a therapist, a grief counselor specifically. I've seen a therapist for a long time before that, so I know the personal work to do, and just went back to finding my enjoyment in the day and working on my health, my physical health, but putting more focus to my mental and emotional and spiritual health as well.
When you were 20, you learned about the power of goal settings, and you wrote down the following 8 goals. I love this. Create a good workout plan, pay off debt, put $100 into a savings account, buy a new wardrobe, be able to jog 20 minutes, eat only raw foods, put up posters and pictures, decorate the apartment, and buy plants and plant books. So you say that these 8 goals changed your life and set you on a path of continuous growth. Tell us more about your mindset back then and why you feel those goals changed your life.
Yeah, again, I've been since I had the lifestyle changes and the weight loss changes, I've always been a continuous improvement. I never wanted to go back. I always wanted to go forward. So since that time, since I was 18, 19, 20, identified what's going to make the better me, and then I kind of reframed that into my best day ever. And if I can continuously improve my best day ever, what do the next steps of that look like? A lot of it for me is, I'm a natural health enthusiast, so I feel very comfortable in nature. I'm a big believer in natural and organic foods and that part of healthy lifestyle. And so a lot of my personal growth focus would be impacting my environment, my space, impacting my own personal health. And then, in the later years now has been more on, emotional healing and mental health and meditation and spirituality, but just continued. I still do the same thing 25 years later here.
You still write your 8 goals?
I write it a little different. I write nowadays my professional goals, my personal goals, and my family goals. And there's probably like 4 or 5 under each bucket, but something that is, easy to look at on the regular basis. And I'll do it for every year. And it's just kind of intention spots. I can tell you, and some of them are, personal goal that I want to play 50 rounds of golf this year. And because I've been taking golf more seriously and I have the time and it really helps me stay in a flow state. I'm studying and practicing and going and playing. And so that'd be one example of a personal goal that, another one is I've been getting a full medical health assessment each year for the last 5 years. And I always want to improve on my metabolic health. So I do all these things to improve on the last year's results, more muscle, less fat, better blood work and all that kind of stuff. But that's how I keep myself stimulated and to continuously improve.
I love the growth mindset. And I think Alex Baer would take you up on that golf challenge at any time. I think he invited you.
Yeah,
to play a few rounds with him.
He's just caught the golf fever. It's been 20 years for me, but just more and more time and being able to practice more and more. But I do like that keeping me in the flow state.
Nice. I just had Sean Wells on the show, and he said the following quote: "I had a massive epiphany that I am free to do whatever I want to do. That feeling was like, whoa! I've spent my whole life grinding and sacrificing and going as fast as I can, as heads down as I can, so that I could get somewhere as quickly as possible, so that I can be as happy as soon as possible, instead of realizing that I can change my path on any given day and chase what lights me up that day and be happy that day. And who cares if it's a curved path? It's my path. And the more curves in it, the more unique I am, end quote. You said that you were guilty of not celebrating your successes. Were you that guy grinding and sacrificing, which you said I think you were, and going as fast as you can to get to a goal as soon as possible? And then did you burn out because of it?
Yeah, well, I mean, continuous improvement, I just set more and more aggressive goals for myself. It did get to a place where after years of, getting up at 5 a.m. and going to the gym, all the things I kind of mentioned on the CEO's day and stretching that, I did get to a kind of burnout space with it. Going against some of the things that I already learned in my health, like I had a reset of my health when I was 20 and I lost 100 pounds. I had a reset again at 40 when I thought I was convincing myself, I could go with 4 or 5 hours a night sleep. And that's before I measured my sleep and had a good understanding of sleep as one example, or I could be traveling and get off my diet a little bit. And so that did happen. I think it's real. And many entrepreneurs should be really conscious of that because it's a slippery slope that you tell yourself that you think you can handle it. But then, as the body ages or you get more stress, you can have an event, which is, more of a light switch gets flicked. And, so now, but I do wonder that, now I'm in the spot of just being very comfortable with the day, I'd call it the best day ever, putting my exercise in for the day, spending the time that I like to spend on eating healthy and preparing healthy food and spending loving time with my friends and family and still getting a bunch of work done, I still, but I think I'm a lot more efficient in my work when I'm in a flow state for the full time that I'm working. And so I can work, 4 or 5 or 6 hours in the day, but accomplish, I think, pretty close to what I would do when I was, trying to grind out 8 or 10 hours, aside from, at least the strategic and kind of governance kind of work, maybe not the actually pulling levers and, doing stints of putting on labels on bottles in the factory or something you can't obviously do.
I love that. Well, you're just focusing on fulfillment and that's really important. So as often happens with massive success and scale, one's role as a CEO, or actually, you're no longer the CEO, but you left the company, is all about acquisition, investments, and mentoring, right? Can you tell us a bit about how the last several years have been and look like, and the new challenges and adventures involved with the brands that you're invested in? Because you got some really awesome brands. I'm actually interviewing Jake from Midday Squares in the next week or so. So that's one of your brands that you invested in. Tell us a little bit about that journey.
I've always given back. I've been in business for 25 years now, and I've done 25 years of nonprofit board work. Some of those years, 2 or 3 nonprofit boards at the same time. So I've always felt good personally when I gave back, and then I think that's been a certain part of my life that I was always looking forward to having more time to put into it. One of the benefits of kind of retiring from the business was I can totally control my time. And so now the majority of my time is actually giving back in one way or another to entrepreneurs in the natural product space. Sometimes it's mentoring and having one-on-one conversations. Sometimes that gets a little deeper and it is investing in the businesses, sometimes a level deeper than that, and getting investing and actually working with the business, at a strategic level on as a board member, as an advisor. And so, I don't have a master plan with that. I really trust my gut and go to products that I like and I have in my home, and then people that I actually like hanging out with and want to build something with, and then it all kind of evolves from there. And then on the mentorship side, I've been so many requests from people, and especially over the last 2 years with COVID here, and me taking to LinkedIn and social media and a lot of connectivity, that a lot of people need help, and so tried to frame that in a way that is more mass mentorship. And that's the project with Greg Fleischman and I, fatafleischman.org, a toolbox of tools for entrepreneurs and trainings for entrepreneurs to help them. And that's kind of the next level of like touching more people. I think there's 6,000 entrepreneurs have now accessed the toolbox and the materials and some of Greg and I's training. And all that at the end of the day just helps my best day ever. I feel great when I was reminded the other day that a couple of entrepreneurs that I've been mentoring. It's been 10 years now that I've mentored them, and their businesses. It was a couple $100,000 when they were just starting out, and now they're like a going on to $10 million business, and that kind of stuff feels good. And I think it's part of the legacy, not only my own personal legacy that I want for my kids and my family to see, but also encourage other people, and specifically in our industry, that they should incorporate that into their life plan, a major amount of give back, and because it feels so good. And so if I have the legacy of encouraging others in the industry, it feels so good to even think about that from a visionary standpoint.
I can imagine how many entrepreneurs are asking you to mentor them. So how do you decide who you will agree to spend time with?
It's a gut feel. So, it's some people try to approach me like, hey, not only mentorship or opportunity with their company, you can make so much money. And I'm like, well, that's not driving me again.
I don't need your money.
It's just natural. Like I find products and I've been a natural and organic product consumer for 23, 24 years. So products that resonate with me, that I think this is a really cool product. I got to meet the entrepreneur, you use that example of Alex Baer. Even, I like Shark Tank and Dragon's Den are I don't watch a lot of TV, but two of my favorite shows because of the entrepreneur aspects of it. And then seeing the products on there and saying, I'm going to get in touch with the entrepreneur. And then if I resonate with those people, I want to spend more time with them, naturally talking about how you make business better. How do you get more strategic? And then I have a wealth of kind of knowledge or references or resources that I can share, but it's got to come from a product that I believe in and then people that I want to hang out with.
Mike, you're an amazing individual. I told you earlier, we know each other for a few years, but I'm amazed and inspired by your path, your journey. So I want to close out my interview with the following question. Who did you have to stop being, and who did you need to become to manifest your success over the years?
I think the answer is, and I learned this about myself through a spiritual workshop that I did probably 6 or 7 years ago. I needed to determine my own context. I needed to stop thinking that the world was expecting me in a certain way and give myself full license to be myself. And so I determined the context of that I'm in, and then show up as me. And that's when things really started to click for me, that everyone was like, oh, now we got the best of Mike. Before that, I thought I was giving everyone what they expected of Mike, and that's where it was wrong for me.
Authenticity. You became the authentic Mike.
Yeah, and some of that's even, I've been in the hemp space for 23 years, or I was in the business, right? But I've also was a cannabis consumer, a medicinal cannabis consumer for that time. I couldn't be open with people fully on that because people had misperceptions, and I didn't want it to negatively impact the business. So I kept those kind of things to myself. That wasn't being my full expression to the world. As Canada legalized cannabis, first medicinally, but now, recreationally over the last 3 years, and I could be open to people saying, cannabis has been a big part of my life, and I think it should be, others should have access to it and see if it's a better medicine for them or it's a better recreation for them than alcohol or some other items. But maybe part of it has been circumstance, part of it's been more confidence in myself, more confidence to be me and put myself out there in the world. And so I really enjoy doing that. I do it a lot on LinkedIn. I use that social platform, which is therapeutic for me. I know it helps other people, but it's really therapy for me to put myself truly out there and just be me, unapologetically me.
Unapologetically, Mike. I love that. And that's a perfect ending. So let the Seven Hatters know where they can reach you, how they can reach you, or anything else you want them to know in order to follow you, or whatever it is that you have to offer.
Yeah. So LinkedIn, I'm active on LinkedIn on a daily basis. So you can search Mike Fata on LinkedIn. Also active on Clubhouse. I'm a big believer in social audio. And so, if you search Mike Fata, you can jump into a number of our kind of rooms and conversations and chats there. And then I would check out fatafleischman.org for the free resource tools that we're offering to specifically entrepreneurs. And those would be the 3 ways that I would encourage people to connect with me.
Awesome. I've been part of some of those Clubhouse rooms of yours, and they're amazing, and they're very, very inspirational, and you're helping a lot of entrepreneurs. Mike, it's been such a pleasure having you on the Seven Hats. I love your story, and I know you're going to help so many entrepreneurs just with all of these value bombs that you were dropping. And I was just like taking notes, mental notes, like one value bomb after another. And so I appreciate your time, and thank you for being on the Seven Hats.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
I hope you enjoyed my conversation with Mike. Let's end today with the segment of the show that I refer to as, what can we hang our hat on? And here's my takeaway. Entrepreneurship is a challenging and treacherous journey. It's filled with roadblocks, detours, and sometimes dead ends. We've all heard the abysmal probability of achieving business success. Approximately 20% of new businesses fail during the first 2 years of being open, 45% during the first 5 years, and only 25% of new businesses make it to 15 years or more. Any rational person would wonder why anyone willingly sets out on such a path. But entrepreneurs brave the dangers because they believe that they can change the world. They have a mission, a vision, and a purpose that allows them to get up each morning and face the punches headed their way. So it's safe to say that if you're an entrepreneur, every fiber of your being needs to be passionate and innovative, yes, but also determined, resilient, and consistent. And Mike is that entrepreneur. He realized at a young age that nothing is achieved without hard work. He wasn't having the 9-to-5 grind. He had a mission of helping others achieve greater health with the same product that helped him heal himself, hemp. And every day, a bit more than the day before, he deserves to look in the mirror and say, mission accomplished. I hope you found Mike's journey as inspiring as I have. It is a beacon of hope of what is possible. I want to thank Mike once again for joining us so we can all benefit from his wisdom. And until next time, if you found this episode helpful, please hit that subscribe button and tell other entrepreneurs out there what value you received from it so we can attract even more high-quality people into our 7 Hats community. So for now, I will bid you farewell and success on your journey. And until next time, my name is Yuval Selik, and I tip my hat to you.